Hello everybody and welcome to our continuing coverage of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo for 2021. The big engine brutes are lined up and ready to go. It'll be Jeremy Shaw and Brian Till with the action.
Truly one of the most exotic one-make series in all of the world, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and we visit the Finger Lakes area of New York State, Watkins, Glen to be exact, and what a fantastic racetrack to unleash the bulls here around the Watkins Glen International Raceway. Cars in pit lane after the reconnaissance lap, and we are ready to go. Where are we? Well, I said Watkins Glen, southern New York State, in the Finger Lakes area, just at the base of some of the Finger Lakes. 3.4 miles, 11 turns, great passing opportunities here in some areas that you'll hear us talk about: the inner loop, the chute, the boot. You can tell it's shaped like a boot. There's a toe and a heel, and good passing areas, especially in the heavy braking zones, into turn 1, the inner loop, and into the heel of the boot, or turn 8. It leads to great racing. This racetrack has such a storied past, and every time we come here, we have great racing. We had great racing yesterday in round 1 of the weekend. This is the third weekend for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. At the drop of the green flag, though, newcomer Max Waring in the 61 in the middle of the field, the black and gold Lamborghini, makes a move out of his column too soon, passes before the line. He'll have to serve a drive-through penalty, and that is not the way to get your day started. Neither is this. Kyle Marcelli, big impact in the climbing S's. Good to see him climb out of the car after a full course yellow. For Marcelli's incident, Richard Antonucci takes off right where he was, and that was up front. Then the pit stops start to unfold, and by the time they are all done, Antonucci out in front. In the AM class, some great battles here between Alan Metney in the 99 and 17-year-old Luke Berkeley in the 23, but in the end, Richard Antonucci seems to own the keys to almost every racetrack we've been to. He's only been off the top step of the podium one time, Jeremy Shaw, and that was COTA. Welcome in, everyone. It's Hill along with Jeremy Shaw. And Jeremy, the racing we saw yesterday was great. I expect the same thing today.
Yeah, so do I. It was a super race yesterday, particularly for Richard Antonucci, who scored his win number 4 on the season, took his overall tally in this championship. He's one of the most experienced drivers to 18 overall wins, a remarkable record, but he certainly had to work hard for it yesterday.
I think about that full course caution as well, and you and I have spoken about this in the past, and it's not just this series, it's any series we go to. That experience both in the car and on the tire is huge, and I think for Antonucci, watching his aggressiveness at the start and on restarts, his ability to lay the lap times down on cold tires seems to be just that much above everybody else in the field right now. He has tremendous experience. We talk about the fact that he's one of the development drivers of this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo, so he certainly knows the car and the tires quite well. So Antonucci in a familiar spot there on the grid, but not all the way up to the point. Jeremy, we've seen him on pole several times this year, but interesting developments up on row 1. Take us through the grid. We'll start at the back.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. We're expecting 24 cars in this race. Unfortunately, Kyle Marcelli's car not repaired from yesterday after that big accident, so he will not be starting in number 1 car for Wayne Taylor Racing. In the 12th row of the grid, with a 5 grid place penalty, car number 38 will be Scott Schmidt starting in number 38. Car alongside him, Tom Kerr in number 74. Row 11 of the grid, Matt Dickey in car number 36, alongside Scott Wellham in number 82. Row 10 of the grid is Bart Collins in car number 4, alongside Mark Issa in car number 7. Row 9, Justin Price in car number 21, and Randy Saleri in number 03. 16th position on the grid is the Mark Kawami, who won the LB Cup category yesterday, starts on the LB Cup pole today, car number 47 for Precision Performance Motorsports. Alongside him, Ashton Harrison in car number 25. 2 AM contenders, car number 99, Alan Metney, and Luke Berkeley, number 23, alongside each other again on row 7. Ahead of them on the grid, ex-Formula 1 driver Nelson Piquet, car number 33, alongside the AM pole sitter and championship leader Gianno Torino in car number 88 for Torino Racing. Row 5, Victor Gomez in car number 29 alongside the Dutchman Max Weering in car number 61. Row 4, Sergio Jimenez in car number 44, France Motorsports alongside Brandon Gudovic, yesterday's winner in the Pro-Am category in car number 46. Dario Capitano, another Pro-Am contender, will start in the 6th position alongside Jeroen Moul in car number 16. Row 2 is Alec Udell in car number 48 alongside Jacob Edson in car number 6. That car repaired from yesterday after a puncture in the later stages of the race. Onto the front row of the grid, Richard Antonucci, yesterday's race winner, will start on the pro pole, but only second on the grid overall, because on the pole position for the 5th time in his career, he's running in the Pro-Am category for Torino Racing. Great weekend for that team so far. Is from Italy, car number 51, the pole sitter, Loris Spinelli.
It is going to be an impressive start. You look at the aggressiveness of both drivers on the front row, Spinelli alongside Antonucci, and you could have some fireworks. But we talk about tires, so important for these drivers to take care of the tires. A little cooler this morning than it was yesterday. That will help, but they really need to stay off of the curbing for the first couple of laps until they build pressure, and that gives the sidewall a little more support. If you bang these curbs too heavily in the opening couple of laps, you can really damage the sidewall of that tire, and throughout the 50-minute race, that can come back to haunt you. I think we may have seen some of that yesterday. Spinelli, slow onto the front straightaway, has the field in order behind him. 4 different classes, they all drive the exact same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo. Evo and Spinelli getting things ready. Antonucci alongside in the purple 27, and Spinelli with a bit of a jump. Antonucci gets somewhat left behind. Did they throw the green flag? Yes, in fact they did. Spinelli with a good jump, and I believe that's going to bring alongside the 6 of Jacob Edson in the white number 6 alongside Antonucci. We saw Antonucci yesterday, Jeremy, not afraid to go side by side through the S's.
No, indeed, and it was a very bold move yesterday by Antonucci, but this time it is Loris Spinelli has a pretty good lead there. And for Antonucci, he's not going to be too concerned about that number 51 car out in front. Yes, he might be winning the race overall at the moment, but his co-driver is relatively new to this sport in that car number 51, and we don't expect that car, Claude Signoretti, to be contending for the lead in the later stages of this race. So Antonucci is going to pick his battles. He's going to concentrate on who's behind him right now, and that is Jacob Edson in that car number 6 for O'Gara Motorsport.
Speaking of battles, the number 16, the light blue and white Bud Light entry, Jeroen Moul behind the wheel right now, really going tooth and nail early on with the 46 just in front. The red and white Pro-Am entry, Brandon Gudovic behind the wheel. And again, 2 different class of cars, Moul in the Pro category, Gudovic in Pro-Am, so you really need to understand who you're racing with. Max Weering needs a good finish at the black and gold 61 through the toe of the boot inside the 16. He moves forward, struggled with that penalty at the start yesterday. Jeremy, we talked about that. This is a driver who runs in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in Europe, has won there, but really has struggled when he came here to the States. He's got to learn every racetrack each time he shows up for a weekend.
Yeah, young Dutchman, 20 years of age, Max Weering, and clearly got a fair bit of talent, but it's a steep learning curve. This is a very competitive series here in North America, and it's been a bit of a struggle. He's had some battles, let's say, both on and off the track, it seems, in the early stages of this season, but he is quick, and he's made that was a nice pass he made on this opening lap.
Nice and aggressive pass, and certainly he doesn't hold anything back. Perhaps that aggressiveness caught him out at Coda in round 2 when he crashed in the early stages of the race, but he really needs a good finish. I think he needs it for the team, and I think he needs it for himself personally, so he can find some belief again that, hey, I can get this done. Spinelli wide in the second part of the bus stop as he came through there, really couldn't get the car down to that second apex, so he is not holding anything back. He's out in front, 1.6 seconds at the line the last time by, but I think he's pulling away from Richard Antonucci, and as you said, Antonucci knows that car in front of him, the 51, is probably going to go backwards when Signoretti gets behind the wheel and they do that driver change. Remember, mandatory pit stop in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Yeah, mandatory pit stop anytime between 20 and 30 minutes into this 50-minute race. And we've got about pretty much an equal split between cars that have single drivers for this particular race and twin drivers for this race. Everybody has to make a mandatory pit stop, but for the single driver cars, their pit stop has to be a minimum of 3 seconds longer than the cars that are switching drivers. The reason for that, well, the driver who has already done the first stint of the race, he knows how his car is handling, he knows what the track conditions are like, and it does take a little bit of time for the second driver to get used to that when he hops into the car in the middle way through the race. And there's kind of an equivalency being drawn up for 3 seconds added to the pit stop for the single driver cars. So for Jacob Edson in the third position car at the moment, second in pro class, if he can stay close to Richard Antonucci, he will be handing over that number 6 car to Stephen Agacani for the second half of the race. If he can stay within 3 seconds of Antonucci before the pit stops, that will give an opportunity for Agacani to get out ahead of Antonucci once those pit stops have been made.
Laura Spinelli leading into the bus stop, and Spinelli, former champion in 2017, 2018, both here and in Europe. So we talk about Richard Antonucci, his experience behind the wheel of a Lamborghini. Laura Spinelli certainly has that as well. And third in the order, the white number 6, as you said, Jeremy, you need to stay close to Antonucci because you know you're going to have that 3-second advantage there on the pit stop. He needs to stay on that rear wing, and Antonucci, while may not want to do battle with Spinelli in front because it's a different class car, he needs to put some distance between himself and Jacob Edson. That's going to be hard to do. Edson, a former champion in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America as well.
Yeah, it is because these guys have a lot of experience there. So, but this is a super battle. It's going to, I think, go all the way through this race. And Jacob Edson, yesterday he had a problem with that car in the late stages at that particular corner, turn 8, had a punctured tire run off the road. We saw a few punctures yesterday, and the drivers have been told stay off the curbs. We've seen it here at Watkins Glen in the past. If you use these curbs too aggressively, it can be very, very hard on the tires. It's already a workout for the tires around this 3.4 mile racetrack. It's super fast, super grippy with the new surface that was laid down a few years ago. So the drivers have just got to be a little bit careful and not overuse these curbs.
You said it, Watkins Glen, fast, smooth, and high-load corners. It's particularly the bus stop curbing that the tire engineers and the engineers on the race cars want you to stay off of. Track-out curbing or the curbing at the exits of the corner are not nearly as punishing as the apex curbing, and the drivers trying to find the short way through the bus stop really jump up on those curbs in the bus stop a lot, and it really, really puts a load on the tire. In early stages, when the tire is low pressure, it can actually compress the tire, and the wheel itself can break, so to speak, some of the structure of the sidewall of the tire. So later in the race, as the pressure builds, that can be a problem. But as you said, a little bit cooler today, and the drivers have been told stay off the curbs. You've got to endure. You've got to make it to the checkered flag if you want a good finish. And if you use up too much too soon, that is not going to happen. 88 now, putting pressure. That's Gianno Torino leading in the AM category. We saw how fast he was yesterday, and he has been impressive all season long, Jeremy.
Well, he certainly has, and for a youngster that's new to this level of competition, he's done a stellar job in that number 88 car for his family team, Torino Racing. And Gianno is looking to extend his lead in the AM category this weekend. Talking of extending leads, Loris Spinelli is just disappearing at the front of the field. Last time around was a 1:45.672. That is that beats the old lap record set by Richard Antonucci back in 2019, a 1:46.2. So new race lap record already for Loris Spinelli, and an overall car leading number 51.
And what's important for Jacob Edson, he's within a second of Antonucci. So if they both did pit stops perfectly, you would think that the 6 would have a 2-second lead after those pit stops. So Jacob Edson doing the job that he needs to do right now, as Spinelli, as you said, leads into the bus stop almost 4 seconds in hand over Antonucci. And I believe that under braking, Jeremy, looks like Jacob Edson may have the better car into the bus stop. Obviously, Antonucci gets the power down on the way out. You always want a good exit so you can get down the next straightaway, but 6 seems to be really, really good on brakes right now.
It does, doesn't it? And but hanging right there as well is the second of the Pro-Am contenders. That's Dario Capitano in the second of the Dream Racing Motorsports entries. He is teammates to Richard Antonucci, who is in the second position overall and leading in Pro. Dario Capitano fourth overall, but leading second place in Pro-Am. And then right behind them also is Alec Udell in the another Pro contender for Kelly Moss Road and Race in car number 48. So the battle for second, third and fourth now, the two Bitbull cars are sandwiching Jacob Edson in that third position overall as Loris Spinelli continues to extend his lead.
My question, Jeremy, would be if Capitano in the 22, the second of the purple Bitbull Lamborghinis, if he could get by Jacob Edson, would that battle slow them up enough that Antonucci would get that 3-second lead that he needs before the pit stops? And if Capitano could get in front of Edson, would he back him up to make sure that that happened? Would the team communicate that to him?
Well, yeah, that's yes, is the short answer. They will, and he will be trying to do that. Dario himself is he made his debut at this championship last time out at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, a few weeks ago. Prior to that, he'd been out of racing for a few years. He's an instructor these days at Dream Racing Motorsport, which is at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He's originally from Rome in Italy, as Dario Capitano, in that fourth place car number 22. Did some racing, did karting, the usual stuff. He actually won the SCUSA Supernats in Las Vegas back in 2015. Then made some moves in Europe in open wheel cars, in Formula Renault cars. He also drove in the Renault Sport RS01, the one make series a few years ago, back in 2015, won that championship. So he's got this opportunity now with Dream Racing Motorsport, and he wants to take full advantage of it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, so he's a former champion. He knows how to win races. He knows how to win championships. You talked about winning at SCUSA. There's nothing more competitive than that level of karting. And he spent a little time in the European Le Mans Series in LMP3 cars. So he's got experience in different kinds of cars. But I always find it so interesting that what it takes to drive one of these Lamborghinis fast is really a combination of a lot of skills that you gain from other places. And you look at some drivers who come here with vast experience in other types of cars and struggle. Someone who has not struggled and really taken like a duck to water to these Lamborghinis is Mark Kwame in the 47. Won the race yesterday, have several wins on the season. Kwame now leading in LB Cup. He and Terry Olson have just gelled so well, and they have, I think, fallen in love with these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos, because they have been a dominant force in LB Cup. 3 wins in a row. I said several wins. They won both rounds at VIR and then the round here yesterday in LB Cup.
Yeah, it's been a really good performance by both of that pair. And Mark Kwame has just done a stellar job, as has Terry Olson. Mark Kwame's been around at top levels of the sport for quite a few years now. He's done quite a few races in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the top level of sports car racing here in the United States, in prototype cars as well. So he's got a lot of experience. But for Terry Olson, he's relatively new to this level. Done a fair bit of racing over the years, some in radical sports cars, which is a pretty good learning curve. But that pairing has been really strong this season for the Precision Performance Motorsports team, which has had a great year so far. That team won both the LB Cup with Mark Kwame and Terry Olson yesterday. Also won the Pro-Am class with Brandon Godovic and Brian Ortiz, showing the sister car, number 46, in the Pro-Am category.
Still out in front, Spinelli, and it looks like this last time around, Richard Antonucci able to pull just a little bit on Jacob Edson. We'll have to see. It was about 9/10 of a second at the line the last time by between the 27th, the first of the purple Bitbull Lamborghinis, and Jacob Edson there in the white number 6. And yeah, he pulled out about 0.2 of a second that time on Edson. Edson still under attack by Capitano in the second of the Bitbull cars. That's the Pro-Am entry. And right now, Edson just needs to stay there. He can't afford to fall back into the clutches of Capitano, because that ensuing battle is going to way on their lap times, Jeremy, it'll drop them back from Richard Antonucci, and that's exactly what Antonucci wants. We said this earlier. If Edson can just stay there and they do good pit stops, they should be able to leapfrog on that pit stop.
Yeah, that's certainly the plan. But last time around, Richard Antonucci turned his best lap of the race at 146.4. That compares to the fastest lap race at 145.6 by the race leader Loris Spinelli. And that's of no concern to Antonucci. His total focus right now is maintaining his lead, or rather extending his lead, as you were just pointing out there, over Jacob Edson, who's running in third position overall right now.
I think it's one of the challenges of multi-class racing, understanding who you're racing with and who you're racing with for points in the championship, and really kind of understanding that ebb and flow. When you give something up, when it's important to take something. Obviously, you always want to win your class, but you want the big trophy at the end of the year, so you really need to understand the moving chess game that's being played, literally. Where am I in the championship? Who's around me? Do they matter? Do they not? How can I use this car to an advantage? How can I use it as a disadvantage to my competitors? No disadvantage out in front at all for Loris Spinelli, who I think is continuing to extend his lead. That was in the first lap this last time by that Richard Antonucci matched the lap time of Loris Spinelli, and they were within 1/100th of a second of each other.
Yeah, that's right. 4.8 seconds is the lead from first to second on the road, with Loris Spinelli out in front ahead of Richard Antonucci, and the gap from first to second in pro category, second and third overall, is now extended out to 1.5 seconds, so about 3/10 quicker on that last lap was Richard Antonucci than Jacob Edson behind him. That's exactly what he wants. And Dario Capitano, he's not far behind Edson. He's certainly still sort of within striking distance, but not really close enough to try and make a pass.
Well, it's easy as race fans, and certainly you and I are race fans, to get fixated on the leaders, but when you watch the cars come onto some of the long straightaways, you look a little bit further back for further championship implications. Remember, Richard Antonucci leads in the pro category. Jacob Edson on his rear wing are both pro category cars. Then Dario Capitano in the second of the purple Bit Bull entries. But Alec Udell, fifth on the racetrack, is third in the pro category and has been running really well this weekend. Another race car driver who's won championships in other series and has come in to Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America and has a pretty steep learning curve. Qualified on pole for yesterday's race, had a good finish there, and is running strong. He's running third in the pro category today, but every lap these drivers put in is just more experience that they gain, not only in the platform, in the car, but with the tire as well. And in talking to these drivers, adapting to the anti-lock braking system is one of the big challenges in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, because a lot of these drivers have not driven anti-lock brake systems before on race cars, and if they have, they've been different. You also have serious horsepower, 620 plus horsepower in the back of these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos, and for a lot of drivers, it's the most horsepower they've ever driven, and you kind of think about that and you go, no, that can't be. But you think back to an LMP3 car, they don't have 600 plus horsepower. Go to the IMSA WeatherTech Championship. GT Le Mans cars don't have 650 horsepower. This is one of the most powerful cars that you'll see on track this weekend, let alone the Lamborghini series this weekend.
It is, absolutely. I mean, these are serious racing cars, and they're super to watch. They sound fantastic, and they are a lot of fun to drive, as all these guys are finding out right now. We see some close battles a little bit further down the field there. It's a battle for 8th position overall. It's currently led by Brandon Gudovic, who is running currently third, in Pro-Am. Pro-Am being led by the overall leader, Loris Spinelli, then Dario Capitano in the 4th position overall. So Brandon Gudovic is quite a long way back from the Capitano car, but he's holding up a train of cars here. That's Sergio Jimenez, who is behind him. He's a pro car. Then behind him is Victor Gomez, who's another Pro-Am. And then the red, white and green car, that's Giano Torino, who leads Am, just ahead of Nelson Piquet Jr. behind him. Then a little bit of a gap back to Luke Berkeley, who's second in the Am class and had a good old battle with Alan Metni in kind of a 99.
And Metni has been so impressive. I had to check resumes because I wanted to really make sure that I understood the age, and I do now for sure. You know, it was interesting yesterday. I was watching a 54-year-old, relatively experienced race car driver, and Alan Metni do battle with a 17-year-old in the hands of Luke Berkeley. And you just think about what you did as a 17-year-old and what you did and how you think as a 54-year-old. And that's just walking down the street. Well, now apply that to a race car and the experiences that you have versus the experience that the younger driver doesn't have. He has the will, he has the desire, he has the bravery, but the experience isn't quite there yet. To the driver with more years under his belt, he has the experience. He may not have the bravery, but he has the wisdom. And so you think about that battle going on the racetrack, and I find it fascinating. They had a great one yesterday, and Metni, running in 2 different one-make series this weekend, has found success in the other one earlier today and has run well here. He finished on the podium here yesterday in 2nd place.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of racing miles under his belt, is Alan, these days, and he's doing a really nice job with it as well. Currently running, as you say, in the 3rd position in the class. He actually fell back a little bit over the last few laps from Alan Metni, or from Luke Berkeley, excuse me. But actually, on that last lap, Metni turned his best lap of the race. Also turning his best lap of the race was Dario Capitano, who closed in a little bit on Jacob Edson last time around.
And Edson losing a 1/10 of a second or so over the last couple of laps to Richard Antonucci in front, still well within 3-second margin that he needs to be, but climbing up through the S's, good battles here. Climbing up through the S's, you don't want to catch any kind of traffic because you get held up there. It holds up and affects your momentum all the way down the racetrack. That's exactly what happened to Jacob Edson that time. He's going to get separated because he came up to lap traffic, and that may be the gap that Richard Antonucci needed, because have to go past lap traffic at turn 1. That would have put Richard Antonucci right behind that lap traffic, climbing through the S's, which is exactly what happened to Jacob Edson the last time by. So a lot of the decision making from where the car gets placed on the racetrack obviously is in the hands of the driver, but your crew keeping track of where the cars are, when the pit lane opens, and all of that can help you with your track positioning by getting you into the pit lane before you get held up in traffic.
Interesting, just before that, before these pit stops began, Brandon Godovic was clearly struggling a little bit in that 46 car. I think we saw him lose a position or two in that big battle that was going on for 8th position. He, though, is one of the cars in the pits along there with the former pro leader Richard Antonucci. In fact, the top, most of the top contenders.
the speed differential. If you're out there going 130 miles an hour average speed, that's hundreds of feet down the racetrack that you're losing as you sit there on pit lane.
Yeah, and just looking at the pit stop times there for the leading cars. Richard Antonucci is shown as 93 seconds. That is the minimum allowed for the single driver cars. But interestingly, 91 seconds for the number 6 car. That minimum of that is allowed to be 90 seconds. But as we saw, that Agha had to put on the brakes, I think, in order not to pass Antonucci coming out of the pits. So that's going to be an interesting one for the stewards to pay attention to, because I think by rights, if Antonucci had left his pit box when he quote-unquote should have done, in order so he didn't have to slow down before he got to the pit exit line, that's a good bit of gains, well, a lot of gains there for Richard Antonucci. Now he's extending his lead at the front of the field.
Absolutely, and that's the point. His pit stop may have been perfect, quote, time-wise, because he did the 93 seconds. It's when the time was made, and if he slowed considerably at pit out to avoid that and held up another competitor, that's problematic. And I would be surprised if the 6 team wasn't commenting on that, because, and it's interesting, 91 seconds for them, they obviously lost time on their stop, and I would venture to bet that the second they lost was at the end of pit lane.
No question, in my mind, no question at all, because the number 51 car, that spent 99 seconds on the pit, so that's a much longer pit stop for number 51 team, and I think they are about to, or have not already, lost the position on the racetrack in terms of Pro-Am lead to Dario Capitano in car number 22, now up into third position overall.
You talk about losing positions on the racetrack. I just got a message that says drive-through, Antonucci manipulating pit speed.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that, I mean, that's costly. And I go back to, crew and everybody, and don't make mistakes and so on and so forth. Giving up a position on a pit stop and being able to fight back and get it back on the racetrack, you may lose one position. If you gamble and lose, as they apparently have, it's more than one position on the racetrack. It's probably 35 to 40 seconds on the racetrack with a drive-through penalty. I would think that would be the net effect.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be costly for Richard Antonucci, but he comes into this round with a pretty handy lead. He's got 19-point advantage over Stephen McAleer, who's taken over from Jerome Bull in that change racing car number 16, now running in 6th position overall. That is 4th place in the pro category.
So Antonucci out in front, but understanding that he will need to serve a penalty. That would elevate Stephen Agha, Jacob Edson to the point in pro. Dario Capitano, the second of the Pitbull Lamborghinis, as Antonucci heads the pit road, leads in Pro-Am. Back to Gianno Torino leading in the Am category, and Terry Olson sharing the 47 with Mark Kwame. They lead in LB Cup. Still have just under 20 minutes to go. The field streaming by as Antonucci slowly down pit lane on that pit lane speed limiter button, and that has to be absolutely agonizing. And what you're hoping for, if you're Richard Antonucci, is a full course caution after this to gather the field back up and give you a fighting chance to get back to the front.
Yeah, he's going to come out here in round about the bottom end of the top 10, I think, maybe just inside the top 10, and there was a bit of games which there didn't quite work out for Richard Antonucci. This is his 57th start in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in North America. It's actually not the most in the history of this championship. The most starts has been made by Brandon Godovic, who is 70 odd starts to his name in the number 46 car. He's handed over that car to Victor Gomez, who's currently running 2nd position in Pro-Am behind Dario Capitano. So for Dream Racing Motorsport and the Las Vegas dealership, which they represent, he's taken over now in 2nd place overall and he's right on the tail of Stephen Argacani. So this is a pretty good battle now. That is for the lead of the race, heading up into turn 9. Whoops!
Well, this goes back.
Argacani leaves the door open there.
This goes back to knowing who you're racing with. For Stephen Argacani and Jacob Edson, they have had some bad luck this year, but they lead in pro, and they can take the victory there. You got to be careful who you're fighting with, especially if the car you're fighting with is the teammate of the bereaved driver who had to serve the penalty. Talk about the penalty, though. I think we may have a look at it as they came down pit road on that release, what put Richard Antonucci in the penalty box, so to speak, as they were released from pit lane. Well, no, this is him just serving his penalty. I thought we were going to get a shot of the pit stops. But
he was good. Well, what he did there was...
This is it. He's going to...
Yeah.
So this is his stop. Yeah. And you'll see him sitting there, the 93 seconds worth. The crew guys are going to run around. They're going to check air pressure. And you'll see a white car go by at the bottom of the screen, and you think, okay, well, that was the 6, but it's not. And when they release him, you'll see that the 6 comes out right behind him, and it's then that you see it. And the problem is it happens right at the end of pit lane, and it's pretty visible for all involved. You and I both saw it, Jeremy, and our eyes aren't the youngest or the sharpest out there.
Yeah, and it was completely unnecessary for Antonucci because he had the field covered here, he was going to come. We know he's faster than Stephen Argacani, who's a youngster just starting out in this sport, just 18 years of age. Remarkable young talent, I think, but he didn't need to kind of pull that stunt. If he'd lost the position going out of the pits, he would have regained it shortly thereafter in any case. So what he's done now is just put him way back down the order. He's got a lot of work to do to get himself back up into position. He's actually, in fact, in 9th now on the road overall. And for the team championship and the dealership championship, that's could be costly for Dream Racing Motorsport and for Las Vegas.
Well, and this could be costly, and what I mean by this is the battle for the lead. It comes on to the front straightaway. Stephen Argacani leads in that number 6. But the problem is Dario Capitano wants to win, and both of these drivers need to understand they are leading their category. So you don't... The cars at the sharp end of the stick, so to speak, first and second, are actually first and first in their respective classes. And you want to be careful as both of those drivers. Sure, you'd like to win overall, but you really want the championship points. You want the race win in your class. Alec Udell, 3rd in the order in the 48, has moved forward with the penalty from Antonucci, but Alec Udell is a student. I mean, he's a really smart kid. He's got a mechanical engineering degree from Clemson. He's a former championship winner in SRO competition in Europe, and he's just sitting back. I think he's learned this car as the season has gone. He had the 2 fastest race laps at COTA, and he's sitting back watching this, Jeremy, going, I can go from 3rd on the racetrack to the lead in the blink of an eye if these 2 guys get together.
Yeah, that's right, but he's closed in on that lead battle. That was a 3-car battle for the lead, and less than 2 seconds behind him and closing are both Stephen McAleary, car number 16, and the young Dutchman Max Weering for MCR Racing, car number 61 as well. So I think before too long here, we might well have a 5-car battle for the lead, as Stephen Argacani last time around was 1 minute 50.3, almost 2 seconds slower than his previous lap. He's just watching his mirrors right now, I think, and trying to keep Capitano behind him. He would do much better to focus forward.
You took the words right out of my mouth. They need to focus forward, and he needs to focus forward on the lap car just in front of him. That black and lime green, bright yellow, fluorescent yellow, whatever you want to call it. Argacani is going to get through. Udell got past Capitano, the 48, past the 22, and now Udell trying not to be held up by lap traffic up through the S's, and this is going to be massively frustrating for Alec Udell. He thought that perhaps when the leader went through, the lap car would just say, okay, the leaders are coming, I'll let them go, but that is not the case, and Udell really balked as he came into the S's. He'll slip by on the way into the bus stop, and that's going to leave Capitano to deal with the lap car, and the 16 now right there on the back of the rear wing of the 22, and Max Weering coming through as well.
Yeah, this is they're going to try and close in now on Stephen Agakani, two pro contenders here. For Capitano, yeah, the race winner would be nice. It'd be great points for the team championship and for the dealership. But his focus, I think, right now for Capitano is to make sure he at least hangs on to the Pro-Am lead. He's got a pretty handy advantage at the moment over Claude Signoretti, who's about 8 seconds behind him, but still running a very good 6th overall in that caliber 51.
Talk about learning the car. I think Alec Udell has learned the tire as well. He knows that he needs to conserve early, so he has something late. I think that is what we may be seeing for the 22 of Dario Capitano. I wonder if he's run those Pirelli tires off, because the pace, and once Udell got by him, he dropped back several car lengths. And I can tell you, Stephen McAleer in that blue and white number 16 with Wearing closing down on him, he is focused forward. He's going to try to move forward. So it's all about making sure you've got enough car underneath you at the end that you can actually fight with, battle with, because you can drive it hard enough in the beginning that you wear the Pirelli down and it's not going to perform for you, and the handling's going to go away at the race's end. I'll tell you what, McAleer in the blue and white 16, not leaving anything on the table. The car a little loose at turn in, at turn 1 that time. He is letting it all hang out. He's doing double duty this weekend, running in Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Yeah, and he's only a second or so behind Capitano now. I think for Capitano, he'll just realised, look, I've got the pro cars here. I don't need to be battling with them. Like I say, it would be fun certainly to win the race, and that's what every race driver wants to do. And he certainly turned laps fast enough in this race to potentially win it overall. But in the bigger picture, he wants to make sure he gets himself up into contention in the Pro-Am class, because he didn't do the first 2 races of the season. So he's already got quite a bit of ground to make up in terms of the championship. He's only got half the points of Brandon Godovic and Brian Ortiz, but that car at the moment is back in 3rd position in Pro-Am.
For Stephen Agakani, he and Jacob Edson, they have not had good luck this year. They've run well, they have been fast, and they just haven't gotten the performance that they hoped for. They came in and prepared to win a championship in their O'Gara Motorsport USRT Lamborghini of Beverly Hills, but a problem. The second race at COTA, they finished 6th with a cut tire there, and then they had a tire problem yesterday in the goings as Alan Metney around in his 99. So 2 6th place finishes. Every other finish has been on the podium, but they need some good luck. This victory, if they can hold on to it, would be big for them. I think Alan Metney just gets in here, outbrakes himself, big speed in, and can't keep the car underneath him there in the middle of the toe of the boot, goes around and avoids making contact with anything. So he'll get back underway. I think that was a late move in, and he just had so much speed that even with that positive camber, it wasn't enough to compress the car into the side of the hill and keep the Pirelli tires with grip.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And last time around, Stephen Agakani, 1 minute 48.0 in caliber 6. Alec Udell is certainly closer now in 2nd position, within a second now of Agakani in that battle for the lead.
Stephen,
this battle a little bit further back down. Tremendous stuff.
Agakani still out in front. Richard Antonucci trying to work his way back through the field right now, trying to get the best of Sergio Jimenez in the 44 as they head down into the laces of the boot towards the toe. So Antonucci trying to fight back from that penalty, and just in front of the 44 is the 51, Claude Signoretti behind the wheel. We talked about what a great job they did in the early going in the 51 with Laura Spinelli behind the wheel after starting from pole. So now Antonucci's got some fast cars to get by, and Sergio Jimenez could care less where Antonucci ran or if he's the championship leader, and they are leaning on each other down in the heel of the boot. You got to be careful about that, because you got to be careful about cutting down a tire with those dive planes on the front end of these Lamborghinis.
That was a very forced move there from Antonucci. Just barges down the inside and literally pushes Jimenez off the road there at turn 8. Let's have a look at this again. He just dives down the inside. That's fair enough. He's side by side at the middle of the corner, but then he just runs a bit wide and pushes number 44 car right off the racetrack and out of limits. He'd be lucky to get away without having another penalty there for Antonucci. I think that's an unnecessarily forceful manoeuvre.
I was just thinking the same thing. I mean, a lot of times the officials will look at it and say, you make the wheel-to-wheel contact at the apex and you both stay on the racetrack, that's fine. That's just contact that's incidental. It was contact made when the pass was being made. If the pass is made because of the contact, that's consequential, and that's a different ball game altogether. Not leaving the other driver any room and running them off at the exit. I know Richard Antonucci may say, well, hey, the wheel was taken out of my hand or so on and so forth, but you run the risk, and you said it, Jeremy, and I think you're exactly right. You run the risk if the official's looking at that saying, no, we're not going to have that. If you're going to make the pass, that's fine, but you got to stay on the racetrack, and you've got to leave the other driver room to stay on the racetrack, and that's certainly not what happened there in turn 10.
That's exactly right. But at the front wheel, it still is Stephen Agacani leading this race, and by just 0.3 of a second last time they crossed the line. He's had 4 wins, overall wins. Previously has Stephen Agacani made his debut in this championship actually right here at Watkins Glen 2 years ago, because he was too young to take part in the first races of that 2019 season. So 2 years on, and Stephen is doing a super job here out in front. He's now going faster. That was a better lap there, 47.9 for the race leader, and he's just maintaining that edge, just a few car lengths, which is all he needs over Alec Udell in second place. That is a battle for overall and pro. The third place car, Dario Capitano, still leads in Pro-Am, and he's extending that lead over Claude Signoretti, who's running 7th overall.
That time, Stephen Agacani with a great run out of turn 1, kind of leapt away from Alec Udell, but it is intense. A little further back in the field as the group comes streaming up through the S's. Nelson Piquet Jr. in the red and white 33, working his way past. I think that's Signoretti in the 51, the green, white, and red, and coming along with him, Sergio Jimenez in that metallic blue and white number 44, working past Signoretti.
Yeah, the two Torino cars there, the red, white, and green cars, and Gianna Torino. Dear me, there's a defensive move from. I think that was Victor Gomez, who's directly ahead of him. He's a Pro-Am car running 3rd place and he wants to make a move. He wants to get past Claude Signoretti for 2nd place in Pro-Am.
Well, and here you go again with, we've got tires at the end of the race that are worn. You can see the cars moving around a lot. Drivers now beginning to move around a lot. As you said, being defensive on the racetrack, as Gianno Torino in the 88 trying to get past Gomez in the purple and white, and some of these moves by Gomez may be considered by the officials as blocking. So I mean, late in the race, desperation kind of takes over, and I think we're seeing that on the part of some of these drivers right now. Alec Udell still within a half a second of the rear wing of Stephen Agacani, and Gianno Torino, after trying to get by Gomez there as they came up to turn 9, lost a couple of steps and is under attack. Agacani, though, that lead trio, he seems to get a good jump out of turn 1, and that is absolutely imperative from a defensive standpoint on this racetrack, Jeremy.
It is, and he's doing much better now. He's definitely looking forward. He's not looking on his mirrors all the time. He's just going as fast as he possibly can. He just turned his best lap of the race, the wheel at number 6 car, I believe, a 1:47.697 for the race leader, Stephen Agacani. Each of his last 3 laps will be within a couple of tenths of a second of each other, and that tells me that he's more worried about maintaining his position, doing the best job he can, looking forward, rather than concentrating on his mirrors and trying to keep Udell behind him. That is certainly the way to win this race, with now just over 4 minutes remaining.
Slow car in the toe of the boot. The lead trio works their way around Agacani out in front. It was the 7 I thought it might be. Left rear down on the 7 of Espinosa. we talk about taking care of tires here. Left side tires get absolutely punished, and you really have to do a good job of taking care of them. It's easy to overdrive. That's what I was saying about Alec Udell, as Udell has made a mistake somewhere, or Dario Capitano has made an impressive move, because Capitano now second overall, still leading in Pro-Am, but he's found a way past Alec Udell.
Yes, he has. So
I'm not sure where that happened.
No, I didn't see it either, but he ran a little bit wide there in turn one. He's got to make sure he doesn't incur the wrath of the stewards after exceeding track limits. And talking to the stewards, that incident involving cars 44 and 27 is under review. We see a note from race control, but no decision as yet has been made.
Yeah, interesting. I know Todd Snyder and
yes, it has.
Race director.
Penalty, incident responsibility with number 44, a drive-through for the car number 27.
And there you go. I was going to say, I know Todd Snyder, the race director, really wants to make sure that these races are held and run fairly, and they've been pretty strict with track limits this weekend. These cars are very expensive. They don't need to be running into each other, and he follows the rule book. He follows the FIA guidelines as well as the IMSA sporting regulations, and they looked at that, and he and his group of driver advisors said, no, that's not what we want to see, and consequently, trip number 2 for the 27 down pit lane.
Yeah, indeed. So 2 penalties in this race for Richard Antonucci. That's going to drop him to the tail of the field in the pro category. He's kind of lucky that Kyle Marcelli wasn't able to start this race as a result of the damage caused yesterday's number 1 car. So he will be placed 8th.
I was thinking this was going to be the white flag lap, Jeremy. I don't know what time you saw.
It was very close. I didn't see the time. When I glanced up, it was 1:44 to go, and they're turning 1:47s.
Yeah.
So if that was the case, it should have been. But I didn't see, I haven't seen any notification that the white flag has been shown.
So Antonucci down pit lane, Agakani out in front and doing what he needs to do. And I feel like the crew got on the radio with him and just said, turn your mirrors down and stop looking, as now Capitano wide down in the laces of the boot, doing all he can to try to close down on the 6. But we keep talking about championships, and now a lurch up the inside, looking to the inside of Stephen Agakani into the toe of the boot. So perhaps Capitano was just cooling tires for a lap, and now is going to come back and attack. Alec Udell right there with him.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. It really is. Absolutely nose to tail, these 3 cars as they head up the hill towards turn 9.
Well, the question is, looking at the time, 20 seconds to go. Is there another lap, or is this the checkered flag? We did not see a white flag last time by. You don't have to see a white flag. They don't have to throw it. It's going to be close at the line. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the white flag is displayed. I've never seen that close at the line. He's got 3.4 miles to go. And Dario Capitano may have one more go at Stephen Agakani. I've never seen it that close at the line.
I don't think I have either. That was super close, and that's great. That's exactly what we want to see as race fans. It's exactly what Stephen Agakani and the team there at Agara Motorsport and US Racing does not want to see. They wanted to see the checkered flag. They saw the white. He's got 3.5 miles remaining to hold on to what would be a very, very hard-won victory, and or 3.4 miles for Dario Capitano to score his first overall victory in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America.
Well, and I think for Stephen Agakani and Jacob Benson, they need this win in the pro category. As Max Weering with a problem, he has pulled off safely. Great job to get that car out of the way and not affect others on the racetrack. They need this win, certainly, to help bolster them in the championship. But I think they really need it overall. And I think they need it overall for the spirits of the team, for these young drivers. And right now, Stephen Agakani, I'm sure they just said on the radio, turn your mirrors down. Don't worry about what's behind you. Just drive the best qualifying laps that you can give us, and don't worry about it. Do what you can do. Bring that car back around. And Capitano is not done with Agakani yet. 2 more turns to go through 10. He needs to keep it on the island. He does. He doesn't go past the curbs, through the final corner, onto the front straightaway. It has been a long season up to this point for Jacob Benson, Stephen Agakani, but it all comes good at Watkins Glen as Stephen Agakani and Jacob Benson take their first win on the 2021 season.
Superbly judged victory there for Stephen Agakani. That's his 5th overall win in this championship, by far his best in my opinion. He really had his work cut out there. A little bit further back down the order, Gianna Torino will cross the line in the 9th position to win the AM category, once again extend his championship lead. He took the championship lead yesterday by 2 points with the pole he got this morning. That would extend his championship lead. And again, another great performance by Torino Racing and for the Palm Beach dealership.
And for Dario Capitano, we saw him right there with Agakani. Need to make sure that we mention that he takes the victory in the Pro-Am category. Finished 3rd here yesterday. So with 3 podiums in the last few races and now the victory here today, that's going to be good for him. He did miss the first 2 races, but Capitano finding his first victory in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, and waiting for the 47 of Olsen. He and Mark Kwame, yep, celebration there as Olsen through the bus stop, waving at the corner workers, saying, thank you very much, workers, for allowing us to race, because without the workers, without the volunteers, these race car drivers, these race teams have nowhere to compete. It's all of those workers standing around in those white overalls, making sure that they're letting the drivers know about the racetrack and the condition of it that make our racing possible. But what a great drive. I think you're right, Jeremy. When I think about Stephen Agakani and Jacob Benson, for Stephen Agakani especially, I think this is the best drive that I've seen. I think he succumbed to the pressure a little bit earlier in the stint. He was making some mistakes. He was holding everybody up. He was driving in the mirrors, as you say. And I think they must have gotten on the radio with him and said, you've got this. Just focus forward, and you've got this. Looking behind you does no good. Stay focused and stay focused forward, and the victory can be yours. And indeed, that's what he did, and they're going to celebrate with that victory, their first win on the season. They thought it was going to come a long time ago. They've had great performances, but just Lady Luck not shining on them. And Jeremy, you and I have talked about this as well. The competition in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, some of the best I've seen.
Well, it really is. This is the best year of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series, and tremendous racing. That was a great win for that Tasada car of Stephen Agakani and Jacob Benson. Really, really well judged all the way through. A few rocky moments for Stephen there in the early part of his stint, but he put his head down and comes away with a really nicely judged victory. And that's pretty impressive for an 18-year-old from Los Angeles, California.
When you think about points, too, with Antonucci's day, the 2 drive-through penalties, he's been collecting wins like some people collect stamps or coins, but this is going to set him back. The win helps Agakani out, helps everybody else out in the pro category in the Drivers' Championship.
It does. He came into today's race with a 19-point lead over Stephen McAleer. He will leave Watkins Glen with just a 12-point advantage over McAleer in second place. Stephen Agakani and Jacob Benson, despite the disappointment yesterday, having that puncture in the late stages that dropped him back to a 7th place finish, they will now move up to 3rd place, just 6 points behind Stephen McAleer and 1 ahead of Alec Udell, who matched his career best finish today with a 2nd place.
Yeah, good stuff. You think about the 4 different championships, and it's close in all of them. I think the AM category, too, especially for 2nd and 3rd in the AM category, is going to be tough. Gianno Torino, impressive again today in the AM class.
Indeed, so he will extend his lead. It was 2 points. It'll now be 7 points over Alan Metney. And then not far behind him, having finished second today, is Luke Berkeley in the AM class. In Pro-Am, Brandon Gudovic and Brian Ortiz, they had problems in this race and didn't finish the race, but they still have a pretty handy advantage over Victor Gomez, who finished second today, and will reduce the deficit from 9 points to just 5 in Pro-Am. In LB Cup, with yet another victory, win number 4 on the season, and 4th in succession for Mark Kwame and Terry Olsen, they will extend their lead over Matt Dickin for the LB Cup title. In the team championship, I think Change Racing were just about to hold on to that advantage, particularly with the problems for Precision Performance Motorsports in this race, and that non-finish for number 46. In the dealer championship, Palm Beach will hold a good lead heading into the next round over Charlotte.
Drivers' championships, team championships, and dealership championships, all at stake in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Stephen Agakani celebrating with his team in Victory Lane, and I understand, Jeremy, your hair looks kind of like Steven's these days after all the COVID lockdowns out in California. Great battles throughout. We expected that, Jeremy. It's exactly what we saw.
Not much longer. So yeah, that was a tremendous race. Some tremendous battles all around. A few incidents here and there, but nothing too serious. But certainly it was serious enough for the officials to call 2 penalties on Richard Antonucci, with Stephen Agakani and Jacob Edson that come away with the victory, and a great run to second place overall and first to Pro-Am for Dario Capitano.
On to Road America. It's where we head next with Lamborghini Super Trofeo. For Jeremy Shaw and everyone here, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.